Welcome to this meeting of the Board of Education. This meeting is being televised live on ACPS TV and streamed on ACPS YouTube channel. General information and protocols for this meeting are posted on the sign by the doorway as you enter into the room, so please make sure you read those if you have not already. The invocation. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies. Being ever mindful of your guidance, stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. Please stand for the pledge and remain standing after the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we enter into a new school year, the board wishes to take a moment to remember those students and staff whom we lost during the just completed year. I ask you to join me now in a moment of silence for their memory. Thank you. If you are not already aware, our talented design and print team has put together a slideshow remembering those we lost. If you have not seen it, I encourage you to go to www.acps.org/YouTube and view it. Thank you. All right, item 2.03, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve as written.
Second.
Thank you. Do I have consensus? Item 2.04, establish agenda order. Do I have a motion?
Move to proceed with agenda as printed.
Do I have consensus? Okay, thank you. Item 2.05, recognitions. Quickly, I'd like to make a note and to thank Ms. Lori Morrow, who is a member of the State Board of Education, who is attending our meeting today. Thank you for being here. And then I would also like to recognize our new student member of the board, Mr. Zachary McGrath, who is joining us for his first meeting today. As Mr. McGrath is well aware, he joins a storied line of student members of the board, one of whom was one of my extraordinary professors in graduate school at Georgetown University, among others. And of course, comes into the only student member of the board position in this entire country that has full voting rights. Our student members never cease to amaze us and always make us proud. And I know that Mr. McGrath will join his fellow students in doing both of those things. So welcome and congratulations. Okay, we will now move. I'm sorry. Did you want to say something?
I just wanted to thank the board for recognizing me. I want to thank all of the constituents of Anne Arundel County for putting their trust in me. I'm really excited to work with the Anne Arundel community and help improve the school system. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, and thank you. Okay, we will now move to public comments. Speakers will be allotted 2 minutes each and may not allocate their time to others. The yellow light below me will shine when you have 30 seconds remaining. The red light below me will shine and you will hear a tone when your time has expired. The board asks that comments remain civil and appropriate for the various audiences that may be watching or viewing this meeting, which, as we know, includes children. Student-specific and personnel matters are confidential and cannot be discussed in this forum. I may add also that please do not engage in any ad hominem attacks or labeling of people with whom you disagree. Please speak only on the topic that you signed up to speak on. It is not the board's general practice to engage in question and answer sessions with speakers. For the record, please give your name before speaking. Handouts should be given to the board assistant. It should also be noted for the public that there are many ways to bring your voice to the board. We want to hear from the public. Public testimony is only one of those processes. Please know that you can always email us, email the board office. I can say for my colleagues, we are busy. We cannot always respond to emails, but we read all of them. So thank you. So with that, we will have in-person public comment first. And speaking on item 4.02 school hours report, let me call Ms. Laws and Mr. Wyndham.
Good afternoon, Ms. Jackson and members of the board. I'm Julia Laws. I'm a Chesapeake High School parent and a community advocate. I'd first like to thank Zach McGrath, our new SMOB. My daughter and I are extremely excited for you to join the board and be a voice for all of AACPS students. I'd also like to thank Ms. Jackson. Most people look forward to a summer break. For some reason, you've doubled your job duties, and I just want to make sure that you know that doesn't go unnoticed and that it's very much appreciated. I'm here today to discuss the implementation of the new school start times. I don't want to address the arguments as to whether they are healthy or not. My primary concern is the rushed process to implement. It's no secret that we are not ready or prepared. We need bus drivers, childcare providers, and crossing guards to make this work. Unfortunately, we simply do not have enough to meet that need. I understand that that is not your fault, but fault and responsibility are two different things. You each have a responsibility to ensure the safety of our students. That responsibility isn't waived simply because our community partners aren't prepared. I think we can all agree there isn't anything healthy or safe about putting children in the care of babysitters who have not been fully vetted or allowing them to walk across dangerous and unsupervised crosswalks. I'd also like to ask that you consider Dr. Bedell. At the announcement of Dr. Bedell as our new superintendent, it brought a wave of optimistic hope throughout our district. Please ride that wave. Give him the adequate time to assess the matter before throwing him into this impossible situation. On June 1st, our county council passed a resolution 1222 with a 5-2 vote urging this board to delay implementation until at least the 2023-24 school year. Delaying implementation will allow our community partners the time they need to hire and find solutions to the obstacles they are facing. In addition to delaying that implementation, I would also like to encourage you to consider a staggered implementation when the time comes. Each area of our county is unique and deserves your full commitment to getting this right. Thank you for all of your time and dedication to serving our students, staff, and family.
Thank you, Ms. Laws. Mr. Wyndham.
Good morning, afternoon. I spent 2 long years in constant severe chronic pain while in the Air Force. I'd seen around 9 different military and civilian doctors, including various specialists, and they all either misdiagnosed me or basically said nothing was wrong. These so-called experts just wanted to sign me up for recurring pills or injections or suggest I just wanted to get out of running. At one point, so many doctors and specialists had basically said nothing was wrong with me. The military and TRICARE refused to let me see other specialists because I already received a second opinion. Rest assured, this guy found a way and eventually had a $25,000 exploratory surgery to repair, quote, a significant tear in the cartilage of the ball and socket joint in my hip. And when I reached out to the previous doctors who saw me, absolutely none gave a care in the world to learn of their mistake. You're probably wondering by now what this has to do with school start times. Well, I would suggest the school board is much like those who refuse to accept something was wrong with me and refuses to consider a 4th or 5th opinion because so many so-called experts assumed to be correct have already said what to do. Laying aside the fact that studies posted have a number of significant limitations and biases, and the fact there's so much we truly don't understand about the human brain, there are many real-world implications that justify delaying implementation. Just one example is families who will now have to pay for childcare, who previously did not, and did not have the extra money even before this inflation crisis. And that's even if they can find a provider. Dismissing a legitimate concern with carefully crafted manipulative talking points is the epitome of elitism and privilege. Where's the equity concern here? The board should get through these staff changes this year, show the public the opt-in program is going to provide safe, reliable transportation for all versus that just being a talking point on a brochure before implementing another major change. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Wyndham, I'm going to call you back again for item 4.05, Superintendent's Report.
This is Emily. Inclusion. What do you think about when you hear the word inclusion? We talk about inclusion a lot, but honestly, it feels like nothing but a buzzword. In practice, AECPS has historically resisted inclusion. 2 years ago, her annual IEP meeting was 4 hours long, split across 2 meetings, because there was resistance to inclusion. And this was after already having placed her to receive inclusion. While Emily's amazing team made this past year at Jacobsville her best school year yet, I would not say it was an easy road to get there. And I'm not the only parent in AECPS who has struggled to get inclusion for their special needs child. It's time to stop playing games with the least restrictive environment. New superintendent, new special education director, other new staff, and a new budget with significant special education increases. It's time AECPS have a formal policy from the top down prioritizing the offering of inclusion options to students with disabilities. This means we stop doing things the way we've always done them and engage in dynamic, adaptive, creative thought processes to provide that transformative education to students with disabilities. And speaking of that budget, there's an expectation here that no money meant for special education is redirected elsewhere. As I recently told the county council, those with special needs and disabilities have historically and to this day been pushed aside, and it's especially true for children with disabilities. If you look back over the last several decades, you'll find those with disabilities often have to ride the wave of other civil rights movements, often in the back of the room saying, "Hey, what about me?" Well, we're not in the back of the room anymore. We're front and center, telling you inclusion of students with disabilities in the general education setting should be the standard, not the exception. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Emily. Okay, that concludes in-person public comment. So we will move to virtual.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the virtual portion of our public testimony this evening. Speakers will be allowed 2 minutes each and may not allocate their time to others. Ms. Howe will indicate when your time has expired. The board asks that comments remain civil and appropriate for the various audiences that may be watching or viewing this meeting. Student-specific and personnel matters are confidential and cannot be discussed in this forum. It is not the board's general practice to engage in question and answer sessions with speakers. For the record, please give your name before speaking. Our first speaker speaking on item 4.02 school hours report is Lisa Van Buskirk.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Superintendent Jackson and Board of Education members. I am Lisa Van Buskirk of Start School Leader, Anne Arundel County. I'm sorry I could not make it to your meeting in person as I was double booked for a meeting with Baltimore City Public Schools regarding their announcement last month that they were moving a significant number of their middle and high schools earlier in the morning. I'd also like to note that Howard County will be discussing new bell times for the 23-24 school year at their board meeting tomorrow. The initial report recommends 3 tiers at 8, 8:40, and 9:15, which sounds pretty much like ours. High schools are currently in the 8 o'clock tier, but 8:30 remains a goal. So I look forward to seeing their discussion. One of the items I attempted to highlight with Baltimore City, and will with you as well, is some initial statistical analysis of Maryland's report card and Maryland school start times that will hopefully be submitted by the statisticians for publication. Moving school start times 1 hour is associated with a 1.5% improvement in total earned percent. The total earned percent is an aggregate of 5 indicators on the Maryland report card. Specifically, later school start times have a positive effect on average achievement in both math and English, with a 2.28% proficiency improvement for English. Starting school 1 hour later improves the 4-year graduation rate by 0.8% and improves the 5-year graduation rate by 1.2%. Oftentimes when we talk about the research, we talk about school systems that are not in Maryland. This is research specific to Maryland, and we have the opportunity to take advantage of that right now. In April, the school system was excited by the small rise in graduation rate, and later school start times can contribute to their increase even more. While the path ahead for the next few weeks and months as we continue to adjust logistics is not easy, we owe it to the students represented by those percent improvements to give them the opportunity to succeed with a 1 hour delay in start times and improved transportation routing. I remain eternally optimistic that the use of routing software, new transportation leadership, new school leadership, and under your guidance that AACPS will successfully implement new bell times. I look forward to August 29th when AACPS is the first school system to earn MSDE's orange ribbon for healthy school hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Richard Walker, speaking on item 4.02, school hours report. Does not appear that Mr. Walker is available, so we'll move to our next speaker. Speaking on item 4.03, policy committee report, is Jamie Herman Cunier.
Good afternoon. My name is Jamie Herman Cunier, and I am now the parent of a 9th grader at Northeast High School. We just left Northeast Middle. I come to you today not to highlight a problem, but to hopefully be part of a solution. I'm speaking today to encourage the AACPS Policy Committee to establish a county-wide policy to allow county employees from other Anne Arundel County departments, such as Recreation and Parks, to access school grounds during school hours. There is a disconnect in the system, especially for youth athletic fields that Anne Arundel County youth programs use through Recreation and Parks. The fields can be maintained by Recreation and Parks, and they usually do if they have access. This will benefit individual schools, AACPS, in that Rec and Parks maintaining will save on costs, and the organizations that use fields will also benefit. I asked that the policy committee establish a county-wide process for Recreation and Parks to be able to get on and maintain the fields. Given the issues that are coming in the future with later start times for our middle schools, many of our middle school fields will not be able to be utilized by organizations if they are not maintained. Thanks.
And thank you. Our next speaker speaking on item 6.03, Chesapeake Science Point Public Elementary School Charter Contract, is Samantha Wallaconis.
Hi, good afternoon. Are you guys able to hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. My name is Samantha Wallaconis. I'm a Director of Student Support Services at a Tier 1 public charter school in an adjoining district. I'm also an educational consultant, former education attorney, and an Anne Arundel County parent. In my capacity as an educational consultant, I've represented a number of Anne Arundel County families that are navigating processes and services for students with disabilities in the public school system. I've worked to build relationships between schools and families, particularly where there are disputes or concerns regarding special education services. As the board considers the contract for Chesapeake Science Point at the elementary level, I just wanted to encourage the board to review the materials that Chesapeake Science Point submitted for its charter in terms of supporting students with disabilities. Currently at the middle school that's run by the same organization, the Chesapeake Lighthouse Foundation, there have been difficulties with IEP implementation, supporting students with research-based reading interventions and students who have more significant needs. And due to the current structure of the way Anne Arundel County supports charter schools, where Anne Arundel County remains the local school system, when those disputes arise, and there are, for example, as there have been state complaints or requests for compensatory services, when Chesapeake Science Point Middle is not able to implement IEPs, it does leave Anne Arundel County responsible for the cost and the burden of compensatory services, as well as whatever litigation may result. What I've also personally observed over the past years with Chesapeake Lighthouse Foundation in Anne Arundel County is that when students are experiencing more mild to moderate and severe disabilities, Chesapeake Science Point does not have a full continuum of services. For example, there are not services outside general education in a number of areas, which means that children with disabilities are left only with the choice of transitioning mid-year to their neighborhood Anne Arundel County public school. Because communities need to consider a number of factors when determining whether or not a charter is appropriate, I just wanted to make sure to highlight these considerations for the board to look into if you have not had those discussions already. Our families, Anne Arundel County is amazing, which means families that are seeking a charter option usually are those that have been unsuccessful in their neighborhood school and that often does include our families of children with disabilities who enroll at disproportionate rates in charter
You can
programs.
summarize, please.
So in summary, I just wanted to highlight those concerns so that as the board considers this contract, there's some assurance that Chesapeake Science Point Elementary will be able to support families of students with disabilities in a way that the middle school may not have.
Thank you. Our next speaker, speaking on item 6.03, Chesapeake Science Point Public Elementary School Charter Contract, is Richard Walker.
Yes, hello. I just wanted to comment that with experience of charter schools in South Carolina and other locations, I find that charter schools tend to be less effective than public schools. And the fact that oftentimes within the United States, charter schools will be vying or competing with public school funds or contracts that public schools have to deal with, we're going to start starving the public school system and putting the money where the money should be, which is paying the teachers more, getting more programs for those in need. Ms. Samantha mentioned that charter schools do not or have not any need to provide resources for those that seek assistance, such as students with disabilities and so forth, meaning that we're essentially setting up a school for those that haves and not for those that have nots. And that seems to be a worrying concern, especially considering how the public education in South Carolina has been moving more and more towards charter schools, meaning that those that need education and those that need the resources the most are being selectively removed from being able to receive what they require. I think moving toward a more charter school or allowing for more charter schools is essentially going to start doing what has happened in South Carolina, which is starving public schools of the funds they desperately need and providing students with the actual access to knowledge that they require. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. And our final speaker, speaking on item 4.02, school hours report, is Richard Walker.
So one of the things that I saw is we decided to more or less move students, younger students, to entering the facilities at earlier times. I believe it was about 30 minutes to an hour earlier for those in elementary school. And while that does seem to be beneficial for the older students, being that they can get up later or get the necessary sleep they're required, one of the factors that bothers me or is worrying for me is that, considering I am a parent of one that has to attend second grade in the fall, what will happen is they will go to school early and then come home from school early, meaning that I am now on record for finding more childcare. I have to put out more money to help entertain or maintain his health and happiness while I'm still striving to work or do whatever I need. So the shift in time was worrying for me, given that my understanding of older students, specifically ones in high school, do not require by law to have an adult present at all times, while the younger ones do. And that's something that was of concern. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the virtual portion of our public comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That concludes public comments for today. We're going to move now to reports. Item 4.01, President's Report. I have just a couple of things I want to mention. First, I want to congratulate a number of folks in the southern part of our county on the opening of the Early Head Start program. I was honored to be present at the opening ceremony. This is Early Head Start. This serves children as young as infants, and it's an extraordinary facility. I think we're very fortunate to have it in our county. It's obviously not an ACPS project, but it has absolute implications for children who will be entering ACPS. So congratulations to all involved in that. Also, I want to mention that one of our former student members of the board, Mr. Drake Smith, organized an event last night, a recognition on behalf, I believe, of the Caucus of African American Leaders, of young people around the county for incredible civic work that they have done. And it was an extraordinary moment to see so many graduates of and students currently in AACPS from all over this county. Mr. McGrath was there as well, helping to facilitate, who've done and are doing extraordinary things. So thank you to Mr. Smith. Ms. Omasori was one of the recipients, our just previous student member of one of the awards. So congratulations to all on that. With that, we will move to item 4.02, the school hours report. Ms. Ellis.
Thank you, Dr. Tobin. Much has been done, much continues to be done in preparation for the opening of the new school year with change in school hours for many of our schools. So I'll just try and bring some of the highlights of what's been going on. So first of all, I think it's very important that we acknowledge the work of Dr. Duarte that's been taking place for quite some time now. If people recall, the decision and the implementation of this change has taken place in steps over quite a long period of time, really over a couple of years. And so I really want to give my thanks. I feel I can do that on behalf of the board to Dr. Duarte and the tremendous amount of work that's gone into this planning. So where are we right now? First of all, let me tackle just some of the issues, some of the questions that continue to come up. One of them is childcare. AACPS had a childcare fair on, I believe it was June 21st. And my understanding is that that was very well attended. Let me see, I think I have, sorry, I'm looking through some notes, but if I recall, it was, oh yeah, there were over 700 attendees. And I'm told it was very well received, both by the child care providers and the families. If there's any staff here who could speak to it at all, that would be great, just to hear how that went. Okay, great. Marvelous. Thank you. And in addition, coming up on Saturday, July 16th from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., there will be a child care job fair because the Department of Recreation and Parks provides a lot of the child care in the county at our schools and before and after care programs, and they need some more support. So that is taking place at the Michael E. Bush Annapolis Library on West Street in Annapolis. Again, that's July 16th from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And I believe Ms. Jackson can speak a little more to this, but we have had discussions about offering more internships to our possibly juniors and seniors to fit many of those needs. Many of those students already have partial day schedules, but in addition, I believe an internship is sort of a starter for allowing a student to leave and because we encourage all of our high school students to take on internships. So particularly for those who are interested in a future in childcare, education, or the health services fields working with children, this is a great opportunity for them. As far as transportation, I'm sure everyone in the community has seen the continued efforts to recruit for some good, reliable bus drivers for our students. And it's important to note that all school systems, regardless of school hours, are challenged with filling those positions. There is a shortage that we must take very seriously and we must continue to work on. In addition, we're working very hard with the county on crossing guards. We do still have a number of intersections that need to be covered. And again, that work continues throughout this summer. And fine, I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything from my notes. I'm not going to steal Miss Jackson's thunder so she can update us further on some of these things. But yeah, I think that's pretty much summarizes where we are right now.
Thank you. Okay, I see no lights. All right, we will move on to item 4.03, the Policy Committee Report. Ms. Dent.
Good afternoon, Dr. Tobin, Vice President Sickworth, and members of the board and public. So the policy committee has been very busy. I want to thank, first of all, Ms. Ellis for, while I was on a wonderful vacation, for you filling in for us. And you did a magnificent job as always, so thank you publicly. I also know that she's not here today, but I would love to say thank you to Ms. Ortiz for her leadership and her experience that she's brought not only to this committee, but to me as the director and member that's chairing the policy committee. She's been just tremendous in support, not only to me, but to all of the board members. And I really appreciate everything that she's done. So Ms. Jackson, please let her know that although I've told her personally that publicly, I just want to say I appreciate her leadership and her experience that she brings to this committee. But most of all, what I really want to address today is the public. The policy committee has taken a new direction. We want to be able to get your input. We are going to put out a public list of policies that we're going to review for the full year. And you're not going to like all the policies, and there are going to be some that we're going to miss. But what you will have is a list of policies that are coming up that I don't have to wait until third reading to get all your input on. So while I do like that, I'm regimented, as you all well know. And so I do like the idea of giving you a forecast, if you will, of things that we will discuss and policies that we will review. So I solicit your input, and you do not, I repeat, you do not have to wait until you see the policy committee report as an agenda item, because I'd like to move forward with us knowing that I have your input and that I have your ideas and vision on what you think that the right appropriate policy should be for the students of ACPS. And then I also asked Superintendent, I don't like to use the word acting because you are just not getting paid for this great job that you're doing. But I would like to say the same thing to our tremendous staff and all the work that they've done, that also we want to get their input from, the staff as well. Tell us what we need to put into policy, and don't just let it be an opportunity for us to just review a policy because that's what we came up with. We really want your input on it. So from me, from Ms. Ortiz, from members of the board, we really want your input. And then finally, I would like to say that as we move into our new year of creating policy, I echo and hear members that talks about children with IDPs and children with disabilities and children that are in our schools that have special needs. That does not fall on deaf ears. So we will take a long, aggressive look at the policies that are affected, especially with equity and inclusion. We've done it numerous times, but I do think that having the public's interest, this is not the first or second or third time I've heard. So to me, I think we need to take a look at that. So we will be making sure that we add that back to agenda. And with that, I'll close out my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Dent. Yes, as a member of the policy committee, a big thank you to all the members, to Ms. Dent, and to Ms. Ortiz and all the staff who give excellent support to the committee. Thank you. Okay, with that, we will move on to item 4.04, discipline report. Welcome, Ms. Jackson. It's so nice to have you sitting next to me.
It's an honor. Thank you again, Madam President. The board has asked for some summary student discipline data from the just completed school year to serve as a starting point for potential future discussion at a workshop. And so I'm happy to provide that data to you today. In the 2021-2022 school year, we recorded the following in terms of student referrals: 640 for attacks on adults, 1470 for attacks on students, 2,806 for fighting, and 268 for possession and or use of a firearm or weapons. When compared to the 2018-2019 school year, which was the last full year students were in school prior to the year we just completed, we have seen significant declines in both the attack categories as well as the fighting category. There was an increase in the weapons category, and we are working hard to address that slight increase. As always, success in these efforts will also require the assistance of our families and our communities. With regard to bullying and biased behavior, in the just completed school year, we had 1,188 bullying reports and 248 bias-motivated behavior reports submitted. Those numbers represent a decline in bullying reports and a very small increase in bias-motivated reports. As in the case with referral data, we are continuing our systemic efforts to continue to bring these numbers down by creating environments that foster kindness, acceptance, and inclusion. I thank you for the opportunity to present this information, and I look forward to our discussions on this subject at our future workshop. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Schallheim.
Thank you for this. I think I didn't get all of the numbers, and so I just wanted to know if it would be possible to add it to where we have the monthly reports, because there wasn't anything added for June, so this could be in lieu of like a July.
Absolutely. It's already written that way. I just wanted to present it in public first,
Perfect.
and then it will be uploaded momentarily.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had just one quick question, Ms. Jackson. So obviously, I suspect it may come as a surprise to some of the public that there's been a drop in some areas, particularly fights, if I heard you correctly, because certainly there have been sort of concentrated times and places where we've heard about a number of fights. So could you possibly speak to, obviously these are county-wide numbers. Are we aware that in certain areas it's gone up and other areas it's gone down? Has this been across the board?
It's been across the board, but what we do know from the anecdotal data that we do have is that when we returned to full in-person instruction, it was a bit of a challenge for our students and our staff. Many students hadn't been to school with their colleagues for months, and that presented a challenge. It also presented a social and emotional challenge because of some of the experiences that they had gone through at home while they were experiencing virtual learning. And so thank you to all areas of our school system, but really to our Office of School Performance, our school principals, our school staff, and our Student Services Division for really taking a close look at each individual case so that they could do some really prescriptive diagnostic analysis for each school. Our school performance directors then went into schools where we saw a spike at the beginning of the school year and worked with the school team. We also know that we had many new teachers that either one were new to the profession or had done their first year virtually. And so we also, thank you to Dr. McMahon and her amazing team, we also provided them some very targeted support as well. So that's really, looking at the anecdotal data, what we saw. We did see, and it was troublesome in September and early October. We saw what we usually see around November, that spike in behavior, but then we saw it level off. Bless you, because our students really, and a shout out to our students, because they took ownership. They began clubs, they supported each other. And so I think that that's where you saw the decline and why you saw the decline.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Silkworth.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Jackson. I just wanted to maybe kind of reiterate that point that in the beginning of the year, all of our students and our staff, based upon experiences with COVID and whatever, there were so many challenges. And we all did hear about some concerns about fighting in our schools back in September. But then what happened? Our great students, our teachers and staff, they began that process of building the relationships. And then lo and behold, that kicked in November. And what I heard, and I think many of my colleagues heard, was that the numbers were decreasing because of that. And so I think that's what did happen. For me, it's a tribute to our teachers and our students and our staff for having built those relationships so that the learning environment would be a great one for learning to take place. So thank you for the data.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Seeing no other lights, we will move to item 4.05. Again, Ms. Jackson, take it away.
Thank you so much again, Madam President. There are a few things that I would like to discuss briefly today for your benefit as well as the public. To date, we have approximately 12,200 students engaged in our summer programming. More than 8,700 students are enrolled in our summer enhancement camps in areas such as art, culinary arts, literacy, mathematics, music, dance, and more. Another 1,200 STEM magnet students are engaged in hands-on learning that will enhance their knowledge and skills. Summer school is also underway with approximately 2,300 students enrolled. We are looking forward to summer school graduation on August the 15th at Severna Park High School. As you all well know, this is a very special occasion. Our summer meals program is also well underway and is now in its third week. Meals are available at 54 sites around the county, and once again, free for all students ages 2 to 18. In the first 2 weeks of the program, we distributed nearly 40,000 meals. I want to give some public praise again to our awesome food and nutrition services team and remind everyone just how amazing they are with one single statistic. Since March of 2020, the onset of the pandemic, the team has served almost 23 million meals. Again, I'll say that again. They have served almost 23 million meals. And that's just incredible. And we are simply indebted to all of them. For more information about the meal sites, you can go to our website at www.aacps.org/meal pickup, or please call 410-222-5900. Our partnership with the County Department of Health continues to result in more opportunities for students to be ready for school. Vaccination clinics are being set up at 15 middle schools beginning this week to offer free immunizations for students and adults. The clinics will offer varicella vaccinations for any students entering kindergarten in August who need a second dose and are enrolled in AACPS for the 2022-2023 school year. 7th grade meningococcal and Tdap vaccines for those students entering 7th grade in August who are enrolled in AACPS for the 2022-2023 school year. And finally, COVID-19 boosters for any county resident ages 5 years and older. COVID-19 vaccinations and boosters are not required to attend school, but the others I mentioned above are. Those wishing to receive a vaccine must register online and can do so at aacps.org/vaccines. A complete list of clinics can also be found at that site. Speaking of partnerships, I want to highlight a great one that we have with Westfield Annapolis Mall that resulted in a unique new opportunity for us, staff recruitment. The mall has made a vacant storefront available to us. And our human resources and design and print teams have come up with an enticing display that provides highlights about our school system and employees, as well as information about joining our team. This is win-win for us and for them all, and we are very thankful to them for this opportunity. I'd also like to highlight a team that works largely but is critical to our school system. For the 39th consecutive school year, our financial operations team has earned the Government Finance Officers Association Award for Excellence. This award is given for the certified annual financial report and recognizes a spirit of full disclosure in communicating our school system's financial story. It is a shining example of the importance that we place on sound fiscal stewardship, one of the driving values of our strategic plan adopted by this board. Congratulations to everyone involved in those efforts. As we look to the new school year, which begins on August the 29th, we are continuing to work with contractors and others, such as the Anne Arundel County Workforce Development Corporation and the community college, to fill bus driver vacancies. As you know, this is a nationwide issue, as Ms. Ellis has alluded to, with no easy solution. But we and the county are hard at work to fill those voids that we currently have. Anyone who possesses a CDL license and wishes to drive a school bus can contact us for more information. We continue to work with contractors to verify vacancies, and we will have a more stable number in a few weeks. That said, we do anticipate starting next school year similar to where we ended the previous school year, with at least 45 to 50 route vacancies. We are working with the county police to try to recruit additional crossing guards needed for the fall. At this moment, we will have more intersections that are not covered by crossing guards than we did last year. Anyone interested in working for a few hours in the morning or the afternoon as a crossing guard should contact 410-222-6866. We will update those crossing guard vacancies on our website. It is our plan to provide updates to the public on the status of bus drivers, crossing guards, and other needed positions on our website every Wednesday leading up to the start of school. Many of the issues that we face, such as the national bus shortage, for example, are outside of our control. But what is not outside of our control is the ability of every single school system employee, elected official, and community member to ask themselves whether they or someone that they know can help. Finally, I would be remiss if I did not take this moment to thank President Tobin and this entire board for giving me the opportunity to serve the students in this capacity. Thank you to my family and to my friends and the amazing AACPS team for their support. We continue to transition with Dr. Bedell on a weekly basis, and we look forward to him joining in August. As such, I ask for everyone to continue to grant me and this entire school system their grace and their patience. It is truly an honor to serve. And thank you, Madam President, and that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Schallheim.
Firstly, I'm delighted that you're in this role, albeit for a short while. You're an immense asset to our school system, and I've always loved it.
Thank you.
And so thank you for sacrificing your summer, basically. Anyway, I wanted to get some clarification about the bus driver shortage. We've always been told through Prismatic reports, and which is our consultant that's been working for us now for years on this, that there are two separate issues. That there's the there was the existing capacity issue, and then there was the change in school start times, and then as time went on, there's the bus driver shortage, and then there's the school times issue, and that those two things are pretty much separate. That's also what I thought I heard you say today. So I just wanted to make sure I got some clarity around that. That the bus driver shortage is not exacerbated by the school start time changes. But that the bus driver shortage is an ongoing issue.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you for the question. And Mr. Sheknovich can correct me if I'm wrong. Again, those are two parallel issues that we are working through as a school system. We are going from a multi-tier system to a three-tier system. And as such, that does not give the drivers the ability to do double runs, for example. So that is one of the ancillary issues that we are working through. As far as the driver shortage is concerned, as Ms. Ellis did allude to in her report, that is something that our neighboring counties, our neighboring states, everyone is experiencing. And what is actually exacerbating it is what we saw post re-entry into in-person instruction, is that the lack of human resources that we have, not just with our bus drivers, but we're going to be seeing that with our food service workers. We're going to see it with our teachers. We're going to see it with our TAs, TSAs. We're going to see it everywhere. It's not something that's unique to the school system. We also see a lack of human capital within our industry outside of the school system as well. And so we will continue to work with our business partners. We've heard the term used a lot, thinking of creative solutions. And so everywhere I go, I am asking people, what do they do during the day? And and if the answer is nothing, or they need something to do, I have lots of opportunities for them. And we also are looking, as Ms. Ellis alluded to, we're looking at our students. We're looking at our retirees, and we're looking at people who are moving into this area for the first time. And so we're continuing to recruit, but we're also looking at retention, because when you're here, we want to create the best environment for you as an employee, and we're going to continue to do that as well.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. I'm hoping I'm getting this in the correct order. Ms. Ellis.
Thank you. First of all, Ms. Jackson, I just absolutely have to thank you wholeheartedly for accepting this call to give up your summer. No, we really greatly appreciate you being here. And I also want to acknowledge, I hear your call loud and clear, that we all take responsibility here to work through these issues and to do our part, to do anything we can to bring in the resources that are needed. And as we all heard, they're needed throughout the school system. And no, it's not unique to us, but we can be unique in our creativity and our togetherness as a community. So I know there's a lot of parents out there who volunteer for our schools, who don't really consider themselves sitting around wishing that they, went out and took on a new job. But for those that have been volunteering, there's some real concrete needs, and there are paid positions, but but you can continue to be rewarded with working with our students and making their lives better every day. So please consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Corkadell.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Ms. Jackson, and to your team. I know they're working nonstop, constantly trying to find better ways to improve. One of the concerns that have come up over the last probably month or so in particular was for my district, the child care fair required some of my members to have to drive over an hour, and that was not practical, and not all of them have transportation. So I'm wondering if there is any intent on having maybe some more regional specific, because South County is not like the regular suburbs and the urban areas. And the few places we had childcare are gone. They're not returning. And so we really are looking at a desert in South County, in our district, and could be hit the hardest out of all of them. So I'm wondering if there are any plans to engage our residents down in that area interactively, and if there's any opportunities to come up with some resource fairs or days, or even if we can just take it down to one of our local stops where we distribute certain services, public services, to those folks, because I mean, we've got tiers. We've got people having to choose between their jobs and putting food on the table and meeting their legal obligation for childcare. And so could you speak a little bit to some of our areas, fringer areas, that are struggling a little bit more?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for the question. I am always thinking about all of the areas of the county, especially those that do have, as you alluded to, some of the issues, as well as transportation issues. You know, they can't get on a bus, parent can't get on a bus and go to a child care facility. So we are working with our principals in some of those areas. We're working with our community ambassador for that area, as well as we're working with our Department of Recreation and Parks, continuing to collaborate. I don't want anyone to leave this meeting thinking that we're going to have a solution by the start of the school year, but I do want everyone to know, leaving this meeting, that we will continue to collaborate with those areas. And if a regional child fair is something that we can work with our partners in that area to do, we will certainly support that. And we will certainly continue to work with our principals to do that.
Thank you so very much. And, you know, part of my asking this question is to recognize so many people have reached out to me, just absolutely devastated. And so to that effort, what would you prefer as a method of communication back to the school? I mean, my first words out of my mouth are always, please connect with your school family. But for people who have moved recently or do not have that connection or are not comfortable, could you explain a couple places where they can go to get more interactive information to follow up with on their student-specific cases?
Absolutely.
And outside of just emailing all of us.
Absolutely. Correct. And I encourage, you know, as I've always said this, you start at the lowest level possible, right? And you always begin at the school level. 90% of all issues can be resolved at the school level, and it may be even 95. In this day and time, the anxiety is so high that they want to go right to their elected official. And what they don't know, and I say this to parents all the time, is you can call the president, but it's going to come back to me. And so you might as well start with me, right? And so you might as well begin with the school principal, because sometimes they know they can make a connection. Sometimes they can work with you. Sometimes they can work with you to understand that the situation that you've presented may not actually be the situation in reality. And so begin with the school principal, and then the agency partners that we have. Call Recreation and Parks, speak with them about some of their childcare providers. We also have Dr. Pam Brown and her team with partnership with Children, Youth, and Families. Please reach out to our partners. We have, and if you go on our website and you can see our partnership, especially in our Student Services Division, we have lots of partnerships with many county agencies. Again, I don't want anyone to believe that just because they call the school, the principal is going to get them childcare. That's absolutely not going to happen. But they may be able to point them in a direction that they were not previously privy to.
Thank you so very much. And I look forward to continued updates, as I know my community does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dent.
Good afternoon, Ms. Jackson. So thank you for the report. I ask that and continue to encourage you to not only remind everyone that there are challenges coming into the new school year, as they are with all school years, but I don't want it to fall on deaf ears that there are a lot of changes that are going on in our system as it pertains to us, AACPS. And so I don't want to group AACPS into the world's problems. I want to focus on our problems. One of the things that I heard you say earlier, which I want to say, first of all, to the Finance Committee, commendable, because there's a lot of money moved through our school system. So I know to be able to receive such an award of excellence in finance is no small feat. So congratulations to them and job well done to everyone that's there. The second thing that you said that made my heart feel really warm is food. If you can't tell, I'm a foodie. Never seen a meal I didn't want to eat. So I appreciate that. And so I'm on District 1 side. And we spent a lot of time working with the food bank and thank all of the people that work there, Leading by Feeding, Anne Arundel Food Bank, and just the county for the phenomenal work that they do. But one of the things you said is that there is access to meals. I just want to clarify that for students that are not attending the summer program.
Correct.
Okay.
Any resident of Anne Arundel County or any child in Anne Arundel County ages 2 to 18
can go to these locations.
Yes, ma'am.
And get meals.
Yes.
And they do not have to be in summer school.
For free. Absolutely.
For free.
For free.
I'm going to say that again.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's important to me for a couple of reasons, because we are diligently trying to get that information out. We did a learning loss program a couple of weeks ago over in the District 1 area, and it was at least 20%, if not 30% of the people walked up and started talking to me about food. So much so I started second guessing myself and said, well, maybe we don't have the program. Maybe that's not the case. So I just wanted to highlight and echo that they can come ages 2 to 18 to these 54 different sites that are located on AACPS website, and they can get free food and free meals. Okay, thank you. And then lastly, I want to talk about holistically the challenges that were coming up. I work diligently with several staffs that's talk about the bus drivers, that's talking about, and I got to look at my notes because I do get a little bit of stress when I see a lot of things happening that I feel like we got to address. And equity inclusion is always through an equity lens. So when I look at the bus stops, I spent a majority of the last couple of mornings paying for meals. Shout out to my Denny's families, because I wanted to hear from the families that the bus stops are being that are affecting, and make sure that as we implement the changes, that equity and inclusion is a top consideration. And I will tell you that I find myself challenged that knowing that while it wasn't intentionally, it can't be overlooked. So I do want to continue to work with your staff, your team, to make sure that we take a second look at that. The second thing is that while we were there, we talked a lot about not just childcare. So it is important for us to talk about the employment of childcare and ensure that the areas that we have with Parks and Recs are manned, but there's also the affordability of childcare. So that's a whole different issue when it comes to the equity side of it. So I think we have to address that and make it real for the people that it is affecting. And yes, they have to choose, but how do we get into the situation that they have to choose, right? And so do we need to dial back that number? The other portion I'd like to think about is the condensed hours. And we had a great conversation about condensing hours. And so I still ask the question, is there anything within the powers of this board, which we have a lot, right, that we can do? And I don't want you to answer it today. I just need you to think through it, definitely before August. Is there anything within the limits of this board that we can do that would ease the burden of all of the things that you're asked to implement, all the things that you are going to implement that is within your control. And then if there is things that are outside of your control, I ask that you continue to highlight those things, because to me, that's the most important things, is highlighting the things that are outside of your control. And while we are advocating for employment opportunities, while we are advocating for all those other things, some of those things are outside of your ability to control. And so I don't want to leave here thinking that because you gave a glowing report, that I love bad news. I'm the bad news bears when it comes to bad news, because I can fix bad news, right? What I can't fix is bad news that I didn't know about, right? And so I want to make sure that as we continue to give the updates, that we have awareness, we have synergy amongst to support you, but at the same time, I want the public to be able to put on their supportive hat instead of their got you hat, right? As we move into August the 29th.
Absolutely.
Because now from 84 to almost 87,000 students are going to be entering this as a result of changes that's been made. So I just ask that you continue to keep the public update, keep us updated, and let us know always if there's anything that we can do that's outside of your purview to be able to control. Thank you.
Thank you.
So not a question, just a comment.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Ms. Dent.
Thank you. Ms. Frank.
Yes, thank you. So you mentioned, Ms. Jackson, the crossing guards. You said that there were more vacancies this year than last. So there's more upcoming vacancies next year than the year that we just concluded, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that we ended with.
How many crossing guards, how many spots will we have without crossing guards?
I will, I have that information and I will get that to you. We have specific intersections as well, and that will also be made public as well.
And then you said that we have approximately 45 to 50 vacancies for bus drivers at this time.
That's where we ended last year.
Do we normally see? So I saw the bus. That
Yes,
was
ma'am.
amazing.
There's several.
As you drive in on Reba Road, there's a huge bus that, advertises our need for buses. Over the summer, what is our usual hiring increase? And do you think that we're going to be at 45 to 50 by the beginning of the school year? Or are we kind of like, we haven't hired them, we haven't trained them, so we don't have anybody in the pipeline?
So, and again, Mr. Sheknovich can correct me if I'm giving incorrect information. But what we see with our bus driver situation is what we see with several areas of our system, and as well as outside of the system. We hire new people, but we also have people who either retire or decide not to come back. And so that shuffling over the summer will happen. And again, you're asking me today to make a prediction. And my prediction is we will probably be at least at 45 to 50 when we begin the school year, unless something happens. Like every board member recruits 5 or more bus drivers, or every elected official brings 3 or more bus drivers. I believe that we will be in at least that situation. The other piece, again, same thing with teaching assistants and food service workers and every human capital resource that we have within the school system and outside of the school system, is then the ability for, if someone has a doctor's appointment, or someone is going on vacation, or someone has unfortunately experienced an untimely family death and they have to take time, then you don't have a bench to cover. And that's the other piece that we're working through as well.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely want to know some of that information. Sometimes Mr. Sheknovich will come in here and say, well, we've got 8 people. They just have to take their test and they're going to do that in 2 weeks. So I didn't know if we had any, folks moving through and they're almost at the point where they'd be ready or anything like that.
And that will be part of our updates. If we do have a large number of people going through. If we have a one person or two people, then, that won't be significant. But as Mr. Shaknovich has provided in his transportation updates, we will give a total number, sort of like a year-to-date total.
Okay, and then the last question I have is concerning childcare. So we know that at our last meeting, Dr. Arlotto mentioned that several childcare facilities closed, and that was exacerbating the issue of childcare. And then some of the recs and parks ability to assist, they also have, I think it was 10 closures or something to that effect. Do we have an estimate of how much need versus ability and availability there is, and how many people in this county just will not have access to childcare because there's no human capital for it?
I do not have an answer to the second part of your question, which was how many people won't have access, because that would be much of that self-reporting, and so I don't have that. What I do have are the numbers of that are waitlisted for recreation and park, and I can get that information to the board and make that part of the public update as well.
Okay. So I guess my concern there is that we don't have another meeting for quite some time. So if we wanted to work through some of these concerns and figure that out, I mean, it would be right before school starts. So.
Well, these are, I mean, you're referencing the questions you've been asking are operational issues, right?
Yes.
Which don't require a board meeting.
So
that work will continue regardless of a board meeting, if
I
I'm
understand that.
understanding you correctly.
Yeah, so, well, if we take this to the conclusion, and the conclusion is we're not ready, or we're ready, but the county's not ready, we would not know that until the week before we're supposed to go back to school. Is that this board would not be able to take any action until that point?
Well, I'm not going to, Ms. Jackson, do you have a response to that you would like to give with regard to the implications of a change a week before school starts or somewhere over the summer? You referenced in your report, a lot of work has been done to set this in motion. So we're talking about unwinding that work, right? If I'm following what you're saying,
Or
based on what the county is ready to do.
Or acknowledging whether or not we have the county pieces in place or not.
I think it's also important to understand that outside of school hours, these vacancies are going to occur. We're going to have a rise in the number of vacancies. So I just don't want anyone to think that going back to, 2021, 22 school hours will magically have bus drivers and magically have crossing guards and magically have childcare providers. What the board does is within their purview, and the school system staff will continue to do due diligence as we did when the vote occurred several months ago. But I just I just need to put that out there. I also need to put out there that, everyone, a lot of people have been working very hard, especially our school principals, and they have put schedules together. Our athletics office has put some schedules together as well. And many people are now on a well-deserved vacation. And what I would hate to do is cause consternation, in August, August 21st or August 22nd with that. So those are the two things that I wanted to present. As your acting superintendent, I do not have a formal stance on any of this, but I do have that information on the school system operations that I have posed to you.
Okay, so I do appreciate the comments there. My concern specific is to the exacerbation that we're going to require. And there are several points that are going to put more pressure on the system, which would include the crossing guards, because we will need more of those. The greater need for childcare, because students will now be getting off, the younger students getting off early. So their parents would need to be home at like 2 to pick them up, as opposed to 4:30. So that's an increase that we're putting on a stretched system. So I just feel like if we don't know that we can or that the county can accommodate that by the implementation of this, that raises concerns that they're not ready. I know that that's not something you can answer to, but certainly in my position, somebody mentioned responsibility in comments. So I'm certainly taking that responsibility seriously. And just one more comment to Ms. Dent's point about free meals, taxpayer expense.
I know I pay my taxes too.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Corkadal, did you have a new light?
So hearing the discussion of some of my colleagues here, I'm just wondering, and I know that we've done a great job in populating information portals and the websites and the videos, and we did accept a lot of public testimony prior to the details being brought out. And we have continued to listen closely, and I know you guys have been working in response to that. I think, however, it is fair and transparent and part of our obligation to our community to share a little bit more about what's going on and more details outside of this. And we have actually called special session for lesser subjects. And different from a workshop, I think the special session would allow us to, if we have any opportunities that can be identified or that staff needs to bring to us. For example, it crosses my mind that maybe in some of the areas we don't have the ability to single stack out all of the elementary schools. And maybe for this year, there's a couple that slide out by 15, 20 minutes or whatever the case may be. Under our current board actions, and this is just an example, I'm not suggesting it, but as an example, maybe loosening that up to provide additional flexibility for the staff may be worthy of a discussion. Now I'm looking at the time and I'm looking at our agenda, and this is really an update report. And I would hate for the public to suddenly now be in a position where all of a sudden now we're proposing action when no action is being stated. So I would like to move at the appropriate time that we do call a special session at least 1 week prior to our upcoming meeting, to get these details interactively with the staff. Because it's really not fair to me to sit up here and do a summary, and then we're digging into little pieces here and there, or to our president for that matter. But we do need to bring this up. This is hard, this is painful, and things did not go the way we wanted them to. But accountability and responsibility, that's our ownership, and I take it very seriously. And I was the first member, and I don't know if I know Dr. Tobin joined me with it in accepting responsibility by the shoulder side of our superintendent. Publicly, immediately, when that responsibility was taken, I stood up here, I sat up here on the dais and said, I'm responsible too, because I am. And I think it's not too late to have that interaction. And I think it's our obligation to interact with our community prior to the start of the school year. It doesn't mean we can solve all the problems, but we won't know until we have the conversation. And I think it's worthy of our time. Obviously, virtual flexibility in person is always better. We can do hybrids. We have robots. We've done it before. We can do it again. I just think it's worthy of consideration of our superintendent and our president to consider that. So when the time is right, I would like to make that motion if it is necessary. If it is not necessary, that's always a preferred way for a request as such. But I am prepared to take it to a vote if we do not have consensus to the request. And I will let others speak. I know there's other topics that you have lights on for.
Thank you. Ms. Schulheim.
Just a couple things that worry me about the rabbit hole we're trotting down here. Firstly, this board took action January of 2021 to move start times for, initially it was going to be in the winter months, and then it got delayed to this coming fall. So parents and students and our staff have been working towards this move for a very long time. And tens of thousands of them have already made the changes necessary to accommodate for this change that's coming up in like 6 weeks, 7 weeks. I think it would be highly inappropriate and irresponsible to make a wholesale change this close to the school year starting. And so I'm horrified of what I'm thinking I'm hearing, because it's not all right. As Ms. Jackson said in her report, and then I got reiterated afterwards, the driver shortage and the staffing shortage around for the bus drivers and all many other sectors of our school system is not being exacerbated by this change. I also want to remind folks that 31 of our schools, elementary schools, started at or after 9:30 in the morning. So yeah, there was a lot of pressure on a lot of working families up and down this county to provide very scarce, very expensive before care to their children. That is no longer a necessary thing with the school start times changes. And so I understand that some parents are having to avail themselves of aftercare, but there was the huge problem of before care that had been ongoing for a lot of years in this system prior to making this change. That was one of the reasons why we were in support of this change, lest we forget. It is, I don't think a special session is necessary. I think that that this information, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Tobin or Ms. Jackson, that there will be ongoing updates on a weekly basis to not just us, the board, but the entire school community, starting with this one going out after this meeting, up until the school changes. If this is an action that would possibly, if the purpose of having a session is to make a last minute change, talk about rushed and irresponsible. I think we need to stay the course. That's what this board voted on January of 21. That's what staff have been working on up until this point. Yes, there are challenges, but there would be challenges if we stayed with the status quo too. So I'm gonna leave it there, but I'm gonna, if that motion should come, I'm gonna be a nay for the obvious reasons I just said. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick points. First of all, again, we are talking about operational, ongoing operational challenges and work that's taking place. And so I do caution that we do sort of stay in our lane, but not removing ourselves from the responsibility of doing whatever we can, like I spoke about earlier. Board members are absolutely able to work within their community and to reach out to Ms. Jackson and meet with staff, or whatever it is they need. And I know some do that. So I just, and again, we will be getting weekly updates. So that it's not like we're gonna get a bunch of new information at our August board meeting. because I hear that concern. I do. It would be unfortunate if we had this meeting today and then all went home and went on with our summers without remaining engaged and being informed. I want to remind everyone, and I don't have the wording right now, I haven't pulled up or done the research, but the original motion for from this board set parameters and asked for that to a plan to be brought that came as close as possible to those parameters. So when I heard the idea of perhaps needing to move a school 15 or 20 minutes, that remains, that the ability to do that remains. And again, that would be an operational decision. The board wouldn't decide this isn't working for Millersville Elementary, so we're going to move. The board needs to make a motion to move those hours. That would be, under Ms. Jackson's purview and done operationally. And then finally, as I recall, that August meeting is the school readiness meeting. That is when the board gets an update. And again, we all expect that there's not going to be big news at that meeting. We're all going to be aware of where we are. But if there's anything at that time that the board needs to do, policy wise to help things along, then that's when we would do that. I'm not sure meeting in a special session a week before that is going to make any difference. So I just wanted to throw that idea out there, is that in my mind, August is when we address those concerns. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Dent.
So I want to address a couple of things. So when we commit to do something, we do it with the intent that is in the best interest of the decision, with the best information that we did when we made a decision. My position remains that operationally and operationalizing a decision is distinctively different. So I was not aware, and I say this publicly, that the decision to change the school hours was so contentious to the point to where by doing so, it's going to impact so many other areas. And I've done this over the last 2 months of listening to everyone keep talking about, if you bring it out, people are going to think you're trying to stop this change. That's so far from the truth for me. What I am trying to do distinctively is the change that we have agreed on making, that is done so in the best manner possible. And even though you are operationalizing it, it still does not come without its set of problems. It still doesn't come without its set of issues that we must address. And we can't address them if we don't bring them out. So while it may be a contentious decision, it's a decision that's already been made. And I say this in saying that I think that I appreciate Ms. Corkadale giving us options to get the report out there. I also appreciate Ms. Ellis for all the work that she's done along with the team there. I appreciate Dr. Tobin and everybody on the staff for all the extensive work that they've done to modify these changes. But that doesn't mean that August 29th is going to show up somehow or another, as you said, Ms. Jackson, and somehow or another this goes away. But it also doesn't mean that just because we don't have meetings on the book, that we shouldn't take this and not put the brunt of the pressure on you or the staff, because it's an operational decision. So I disagree that because of that we somehow or another walk away and we wait until August the 29th and talk about it and say, oh, well, it's because we want it. No, I don't want to stop the school hours. What I want to make sure is that everything that we are implementing, which is not just school hours, it is childcare, bus route, new bus routes that we're doing. We're condensing the hours. We're talking about resource constraints. We're talking about crossing guards, driver shortages. We're talking about childcare providers, program changes that are impacting our students, athleticism. I can go on and on and on. because those are real issues that are impacting the families of AACPS. So I'm for one that supports whatever method that we need to use. And if it's having a special session, if it's whatever, it is putting a process in place so that we can implement these decisions and families are aware of what's going to happen. Because I believe if the public knows that all these things are happening, then they won't be caught off guard. And we may get the support, not only the support that we need, but we may get input for someone else that may have another vision or another idea on how we can implement this less contentious. So for me, we've supported it. We said that we're doing it, but I don't think that we should continue to try to think that because we want to have a conversation about it, that we somehow want to stop the school hours. So that's all I have. Thank you, Dr. Tobin.
Thank you. Mr. Silkworth.
Thank you, Dr. Tobin. Well, this board made a decision for our kids about start times. And I support that decision. So many people have been working so hard to help implement that and get us ready. So now, in my mind, it's a time for collaboration. This board also made a couple other decisions. I think we made a great decision in hiring our new superintendent, Dr. Bedell. We also made another great decision in having Miss Jackson be our acting superintendent. No doubt about that. So now is the time for everyone to come together for the benefit of our school system. As I said, I know that Ms. Jackson and her staff are working tirelessly. Even though Dr. Bedell is not here, there is a tremendous amount of communication taking place between Ms. Jackson and Dr. Bedell. So again, I think we need to work together to get where we need to be. We need support. I cannot tell you where we're going to land in the middle of August with the numbers. What I can tell you is that I have every confidence in our acting superintendent, Ms. Jackson, and in Dr. Bedell to analyze where we will be and where we land in the middle of August, and then to make recommendations to this board as to where we should then go. But right now, our focus should be on continuing to get as many crossing guards as we can, bus drivers as we can, and we need to move forward. Again, I have every confidence that our new superintendent and Ms. Jackson, our acting superintendent, will lead us down that path. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Frank.
Yes, thank you. So at one point in this conversation, Ms. Dent asked Ms. Jackson, what can we do to help in this process? So to my mind, that suggests that there could be a potential subsequent board action before that August meeting. So when I say that I think that we should look at this and Ms. Corkadell put it much more eloquently than I did, that we could have a special session and gave some other options. I think that that's important that we consider that. When we talk about exacerbation, we're not talking about bus drivers, we're talking about external exacerbations like childcare and all the others and crossing guards. At this moment, we don't know the number of uncovered intersections, but at the last board meeting, that was approximately 100 intersections that would not have crossing guards, that would have schools of children crossing in the mornings. That is a concern that, in my mind, is imperative to be addressed. And I don't want to wait a week before school starts. One more point that I do want to make is that when we made the original motion, and I was the lone dissenter at that time, and I understand that. And I know that we are moving forward with this, and I'm not suggesting that we're not. But I absolutely want to do it well. One thing we did not do is Ms. Corkadell that day also moved that the CAC establish a subcommittee to review the Phase 2 findings presented by Prismatic to the board and report regularly to the board throughout implementation until discharged by the board. That passed. That was never completed. We can't sit here and say, you know, we've crossed all our T's and dotted all our I's when this major board motion that was immediately following this huge decision that the board made was never implemented. So we have some things to do, and I suggest that we at least consider getting through some more of this work. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Corkadell.
Has everyone provided comment, Dr. Tobin? Because
I do not see
I'm
any.
for motion.
I do not see any other lights.
I'm for intro of motion. Okay. And Ms. Howell, if you wouldn't mind distribution to everyone. I'll say a couple words of introduction. And first, I'll say I appreciate where all of our colleagues are coming from. I know that large enterprise level changes are going to have pains. They're going to have uncomfortable moments. And it is hard to decide how accepting accountability and responsibility looks like. It looks different to all of us. But as I had stated, I don't think that having a opportunity for this board to interact with the staff in less of a time constraint and hear the report in a timely manner is very important. This is about our people. This is about our students. And it goes a long way to just be heard. And so it's not that we have done anything wrong. And I feel that this trepidation of meeting, especially for this, or to meet with people and to interact with people and to have those hard conversations to put on the table what our challenges are, is somehow being evaded. And I'm hearing discourse. It gets more and more personal, and as if there's something, somebody's doing something wrong, and nobody is. So I'll just ask my colleagues to, I know there was discussion for a need anyways for executive session related materials, and I would just suggest prior to me making this motion that date be considered, since everyone had expressed availability to begin with. And that gives us a little bit of time and also provides staff with a chance to give us the most current information. And lastly, it's going to give an opportunity for that interaction that is so needed. It's needed. It's necessary. And I cannot look folks in the face without at least trying to give them an opportunity to hear some more interaction on this and to have those conversations. So I now move the following, and you should have it in your email. I move that the Board of Education meet for a special public session no later than August 17 to discuss with staff and superintendent the upcoming school hours changes, and that, as with all public sessions, public testimony to be accepted. For the purposes of this special session, public testimony shall be heard and expanded to permit up to 25 participants.
Ms. Schalheim?
I
see a
could we
light.
see-
I didn't.
Second.
Yeah,
Okay,
I was
so
going to
we
say,
got
I
a
think we
second.
need a second.
So Ms. Schalheim.
No one's trying to evade interacting with the public. We've been interacting with the public on this very issue, on this very topic for years. Some folks in our community for decades. We've had public hearings. We're constantly available to our public via social media, via phone, via email, 24/7. I'm often on the phone at night, on the weekends, during family time, etc. So we're all available. We've also been told, and we just got confirmed today, that we're going to have weekly updates between now and when school starts. Yes, these are all concerns. No, I'm not trying to minimize them, but the insinuation that any of us are trying to evade talking with the public or trying to avoid another meeting on an important subject is incorrect. And I don't see the benefit or the utility of this when we're going to be in receipt of that information weekly, or more often if necessary, and that our staff have been working diligently on this again since January 21 when we voted to make this a thing. So obviously, I think you know where I'm going to land on this. I'm going to be a no on this. We're having our first meeting with our new superintendent, Dr. Bedell, on the 24th. And again, I don't see the utility. The public, you all know where to reach me, and you can continue to do that. While I might not respond timely to all of the emails, I read every single one of them, and my phone line remains open. I don't think this is a good use of our time nor staff's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis.
I thought you were thanking me, and I was like,
Thank you. Ms. Ellis.
I was over here chuckling to myself. Okay. Look, I appreciate what we're all looking to do here. We are all looking to begin this school year as successfully as possible, without a doubt. And I have always been a proponent for public input, for as much information as we can possibly have, for transparency. And I have worked closely with the administration on those pieces, including the transparency. Here are my concerns with the motion that's on the table. And again, it's not me being opposed to coming together to get the needed information, to see how we can help. My concerns are, first of all, we're still getting emails from people who have not been in favor of the board's decision here. And I'm afraid this is going to send a misleading message to the community that things are still on the table and not necessarily moving forward. It is July 13th. School starts in 6 weeks. Ms. Jackson pointed out some very important details about athletic schedules that have already been created. Oh, goodness, if we hire a bus driver tomorrow, they believe, these are the hours up through this past school year. We've had drivers probably getting out of bed at 4 a.m. to run some of our routes. So, think of all. Yes, we have created some obstacles by a decision that was made many, many months ago, and we've been working through those challenges ever since. So we are going to create a whole other pile of challenges and obstacles if we were to undo the decision or even delay the school hours changes. So my concern for holding a session this summer is that we are not we're creating some sort of false expectations that we might still change some of the decisions that have already been made for the next school year. We have to reach a point where the entire community is aware this is the decision that's been made, and this is the work that's been done, and this is the work that's going on, and this is what the school year is going to look like. As far as I'm concerned, we're beyond that point. But I am very, very concerned, especially the piece in the motion about increasing the number of people testifying at that meeting. Again, I am in no way looking to cut off communication from our school community to us board members. And I've been reading every single email, and I will continue to do that. We continue to hear from the public, but I'm afraid we're setting up this expectation that there's going to be some major action that takes place at this special session. And so for that reason, I can't support this motion. Could I support a workshop? Yes, I could support a workshop. And I also want to remind, this would become Dr. Bedell's first meeting. He needs time to get in here and get to work and not have us get in his way. So that part concerns me too. And finally, this board has called a special session in 24 hours notice. If there's something down the line as we're receiving these weekly updates where a board member sees, hey, there's something we can do to support the administration and therefore call a special session, I could support that too. But I can't support this motion because I'm afraid it is just going to create all these expectations and continue the contention in the community. And we need to be here for our students, and they need positive messages. They need optimism. Optimism is not being unrealistic. It just means we are here to support. And so that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dent, did you put a new light on?
I did, for a couple of reasons. So, first time, so I'm going to ask a different question. So, keep your calls in for a second. So I want to amend the motion. I'm sorry. I'm bad. I would like Dr. Tobin and Ms. Corkadale, because you're my subject matter expert, you're going to help me walk me through this. But I'd like to amend the motion for two reasons. One is, so I keep saying to everyone, it's just not for me. It's not just school hours changes that I'd like to stay abreast of. I really do mean that I'm concerned wholeheartedly after experiencing my first year, which was last year, of the bus shortage crisis, to where it was almost a mutiny outside the school, inside this room, everywhere. And I think it's avoidable. While I'm not wedded on so two things. The August 17th date worries me because that's within 10 days of change. And then the word upcoming school hours worries me. And I don't agree with, if we are going to have people with public testimony, that we expand it to permit 25 participants or any significant number, because it does give me concern that the intent may have gotten lost in translation of what, at least my thought process on what we need to do in order for us to be successful in opening the school year. So I'd like to be able to modify that with the help of Ms. Corkadale, and I don't know how to get that done from this side of the room. So there you have it.
That would be a 5-minute recess followed by.
And with that, Dr. Tobin, I'd like to take a 5-minute recess to get my motion together, because I'd like to also speak with Mr. Burns simultaneously. Thank you.
If it's okay, I'll suggest a 10-minute recess, but let's keep it at 10. Is that okay? All right, thank you.
And that means everybody can't leave the dais because we can't.
Never a dull moment. Okay, welcome back, everyone. All right, where were we? I believe, Ms. Dent, did you have something you wanted to bring forward when we last, in yesterday's episode, when we
Yes.
left off?
While we were out, yes, Dr. Tobin.
Okay.
But I think we got some housekeeping to do before I can.
Okay, thank you.
President Tobin, I officially withdraw my motion and defer the remainder of my time for Ms. Dent, who I believe has a replacement motion that speaks to the concerns that were publicly raised by the members, as well as consulting to get a better, more appropriate timing from the staff perspective. So thank you guys very much for your patience with this. I just think it's the importance and relevance when you're launching an enterprise level project includes some of these necessary things, and it's definitely necessary, and I think it will be productive and very helpful, I think, for the mental health and well-being for the families who are continue to experience anxiety over this major issue. So thank you very much, President Tobin and my fellow colleagues, for obliging, and at your discretion, President Tobin, for Ms. Dent.
Thank you. Ms. Dent.
So, Dr. Tobin, members of the board, I called the recess so that I can gather my thoughts and speak a little bit more fluently about the motion that we want to discuss. So, and I want to preface this by saying that it is not a solution to what everybody's alluding to is changing the school hours. That decision was made, as we have said about a few times here on the board, in January of 2021. And because that decision was January of 2022, and because that decision was 21, 22, okay. All right. In January of 2021. And because that decision was already made, a lot of moving parts have been put in place, and a lot of things have been implemented heading toward that decision. And so I think that in the midst of that, among other things, there are a lot of things that are surrounding the opening of school in August. And I think it's incumbent upon us to ensure that the public, even though Ms. Jackson, I am very much aware that you are going to send out reports on a weekly basis, but people are on vacation. Life is happening for everyone. And while it is important for us to continue to make sure that our school is not open, is going to open on August 29th, we want to make sure that the public is well informed. And so for that reason, I am making a motion that we receive a feedback and a review on the updated status of the school opening implementation in a special session to be determined no later than 10 days prior to the start of school.
There's a second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Ms. Ellis.
Sorry, I don't have the language in front of me. Did I hear that this is labeled a special session? Yes. Okay, thanks. Sorry, my mic was not on. Thank you. So given that the language in the motion is still special session, I still have the concerns I had expressed earlier. Mainly that it could create an expectation of some sort of major board action. And I think that's irresponsible to set that expectation at this point. But perhaps most significantly, again, Dr. Bedell taking his active position as of August 8th, I believe it is. Look, if I see, we're going to get these weekly updates. If I see something or someone brings me an idea or I have some light bulb of something the board can do to support this work and therefore we need to meet, then I'm going to reach out to Dr. Tobin and request a special session. And I encourage any of my colleagues to do the same. But right now we need to not get in the way. And again, that August board meeting is always the school readiness meeting. And I look forward to that meeting. But I can't support this motion, but I also, though, do want to thank all of my colleagues for cooperation and working together to try and compromise and get this right. But I'm sorry that I still can't support this.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Shawhan.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, I'm not going to support this either for all the things I said before. I don't see a substantial change in this motion. We're going to be receiving weekly updates. We've involved the public at every single step of this since we had Prismatic. We had a workshop. We had hearings. We're constantly available by phone and email. We've had school hours on our agenda consistently for a while. I just don't understand. I just don't see the what utility this will bring. A special session for Dr. Bedell's first meeting before he's gotten his feet under him is not a good way to start off this next chapter. I will be a no on this. I encourage my colleagues to vote the same. Thanks.
Thank you. Is this a new light, Ms. Corkadal, or was this your previous light? Okay. I would like, if I may, to ask Ms. Jackson a couple of questions regarding this. So in your estimation, would holding such a special session put any undue burden on the staff to prepare for such a session, as far as you can tell?
Thank you for the question. As I alluded to a little bit earlier, we have a condensed summer, and so we do have a lot of staff who will be taking advantage of that, and who, quite frankly, I hope that they will be taking advantage of it. And so we may run into an issue in which there will be staff not available. There will be a couple of weeks where, right before Dr. Bedell comes, we will be, much of the staff, especially at the executive team and senior staff level, will be on vacation, and I would not ask them to change plans.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly could present the information for them,
Mm-hmm.
present the information or answer questions. But that's the long answer to a short question.
Okay. And Ms. Dent, I have a question for you. I just want to make sure I understand what you said correctly. So you said in the sort of beginning of your presentation of your motion that the premise of this meeting is not any question about whether or not we are moving forward with the change start times. It is to receive a holistic update, if you will, on where we are in the implementation of the beginning of the school year. Am I?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay. And that is because, if I'm following you, there just are a lot of moving parts, many of which have nothing to do with start times, right?
Correct.
Given the labor issues this year and so forth. Okay. I think those were my questions. Ms. Frank.
I just wanted to comment on, I understand that, this puts a burden on staff, and I'm not enthusiastic about that part of this. But when we look at 100 potential intersections without crossing guards, that is a concern that absolutely has to be addressed. So while I'm sympathetic to the staff, I feel like we have got to have answers. So I will be supporting this.
So I'm still seeing a light for you, Ms. Corkadell. That is a light. Okay, Ms. Corkadell.
Thank you, President Tobin. So just a couple comments here. I just want to remind everyone that part of our job is to hear reports in the public interactively on critical issues and enterprise level changes, and dig in. We have well over an hour now completely shredded the time estimates. We are going to have a very healthy discussion, as we do every August, on the readiness of our schools that cover a barrage and a variety of topics. This topic is near and dear to everybody's heart and is having a direct impact. What I don't see is the justifiable cause for the unknown, the fear of the unknown, the fear of I don't know where the discussion's going to go. Well, that's every single meeting, folks. This has been on our agenda, and every single meeting, everybody has the opportunity to make a motion or make an amendment. To suddenly say that a special session being called to afford the opportunity for feedback, when we know that the changes are going to be happening weekly, we're going to be getting weekly updates. Well, I want to hear from our public about what some of the changes over the next several weeks are going to amount to. Normally, and because we do have such a talented staff, the numbers of missing of intersections, the numbers of buses, the number of bus drivers, the number of everybody, those numbers should be going down respectively, and the number of students that we will be able to well service should continue to go up. So I think this is an opportunity for us to dig in. And I'm just going to suggest to consider putting aside the reservations, the fear, the concerns, to allow your colleagues to interact and get their information for their people. Because I know my people want to hear more about it, and more than 10 minutes in a report. And so please just reconsider. I think it's in everybody's best interest, and we've never hesitated in. I honestly, I see where everybody's coming from, but I also know that we have an obligation to know this stuff. And if I'm going to go back out to my community after our readiness report and actually help and support them through some of these challenges, I need to know some more of the details. I need to interact with the staff on that, and that always benefits the people. Withholding information and holding back and summaries only just leads to a lot of distrust. We have an opportunity with our new superintendent to reestablish trust with a brand new and seize the moments of these opportunities. COVID hasn't always been about badness. Yes, labor shortages, inflation, of course. But please, folks, with holding the opportunity for colleagues to interact in such a way, I think is a disservice to the people that they represent. So please, please, please reconsider where we're going here. This is not about making motions and stuff. As I said, everybody's had that opportunity to say suddenly, because it's called a special session, that it's going to occur, I think is a little alarmist and definitely misrepresents where I'm coming from personally. And I believe Ms. Dent too, but I will not speak on her behalf, but that's what I heard her say, and I concur with her. And thank you very much, Ms. Dent.
Thank you, Ms. Schalheim.
This is absolutely not out of fear or any of the other stuff that was just said. This is because we're going to be receiving this information on a weekly basis between now and then. And I don't want to get in the way of staff doing their work in a shortened summer. and that have been very available to constituents this whole time. I'm going to call the question because I think that we've been round and round this, and we need to vote and move on to the rest of our business meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Howell.
Ms. Corkadell?
Point of information, are we calling the question requires a vote
Oh,
of the
sorry.
board? So I just
thought
want
we
to
were
make sure we're
on that.
voting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, okay. Okie dokie. Yeah, yes.
So that's our.
There is no second. That's what I mean. We're in a state of
Ms.
yes,
Corkadell?
of course. Yes.
Ms. Schallheim?
Yes, for
Ms.
the love of
Dent?
God.
Ms. Dent?
Yeah.
Mr. McGrath?
Yes.
Mr. Soakworth?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
So that means we move on to the vote on the motion, correct? Ms. Dent, did you want to say any last? We call the, so okay. Excuse me.
Okay, I'm going to reread the motion. Ms. Dent moved that the Board of Education meet for a special public session no later than 10 days prior to the school opening on August 29th to receive an update from the superintendent and staff on the upcoming school opening changes. Ms. Corkadell?
Point of information, is this as edited or as original that we're voting on? Because I'm reading now 2 emails, and one has caps to do technical edit corrections. So that I'm seeing. And they're listed as typos. President Tobin, once that's been clarified,
Yeah.
could we get a reread on the motion, please?
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm trying to get from once Ms. Howell's where she can read it again for us.
Ms. Dent, do you accept the technical changes that were presented? Okay, so the new motion reads with the technical changes. It's really the same motion, sorry. I move that the Board of Education meet for a special session no later than 10 days prior to the school opening on August 29th to receive an update from the staff and superintendent on implementation of the upcoming school opening changes. Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Nay.
Ms. Dent? Mr. McGrath?
Aye.
Mr. Soakworth?
Nay.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Nay.
Dr. Tobin?
Nay.
4-4, motion fails.
Okay, I believe that concludes that section. So we're moving on to the consent items, section 5.
Motion to bundle 5.01 to 5.17, please.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, Madam President. I recommend approval of the awards of contract listed on today's agenda as items 5.01 through 5.17.
So moved.
We didn't get consensus on motion to bundle. My apologies. Is there consensus? Okay.
Ms. Jackson, can you repeat your recommendation, please?
With grace and patience, I certainly can. Thank you. Madam President, I recommend approval of the awards of contract listed on today's agenda as items 5.01 through 5.17.
And I'm so moved again. So very moved.
Second.
Welcome to life up here,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Jackson.
Oh, we're a fun bunch.
Okay. I see lights. Ms. Frank.
Very briefly, because I know we've gone down a couple rabbit holes. I did want to comment on 5.01 and 5.15, and just a huge shout out to the staff, Mr. Sheknovich, for assisting with a lot of the research. The passenger vans will really aid with the transportation. That it will help to streamline a lot of our transportation requirements and needs. So I'm thrilled that you were able to piggyback this procurement and that you were able to find these vans. Thank you so much. This is definitely where the rubber meets the road in getting things done, so to speak.
Pun intended?
What?
Pun intended?
Yes, definitely intended. And then just a huge thank you from the Chesapeake cluster for the air conditioning. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Scholheim.
Yes, I just had one quick question on item 5.15 passenger vans. Of course, I share Ms. Frank's delight on this one. This is very exciting. Was surprised that we didn't have more interest from the private sector on this. Is this because of ongoing COVID-related shortages? Was that the rationale?
Yes, ma'am.
the
That's
reason
my
behind it?
belief.
Okay.
You know, you can drive through Anne Arundel County, adjacent counties, and you can see that on lots and within our other businesses as well. So absolutely.
Wow. Well, then it makes me even more excited that we're able to piggyback. That's some good news there. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just add to that. It's my understanding, not only is there the supply chain issues with vehicles in general, you now have 23 districts basically immediately competing for this at the same time. So, that is where we are. So yes, but delighted to see that. Thank you. Okay, seeing no other lights.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Scholheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Mr. McGrath?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Okay. Item 6.01, administrative personnel appointments. Ms. Jackson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I recommend that the personnel listed on the
There we go.
I made it through most of the meeting without that. Madam President, I recommend that the personnel listed on the attached sheets be promoted and or appointed.
So moved?
Second.
Thank you. I see no lights. So, Ms. Howell.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Scholheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Mr. McGrath?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item 6.02, filling of vacancies on Executive Committee of Countywide Citizen Advisory Committee. Ms. Scholheim.
Move that we appoint the slate recommended by the CAC Selection Committee.
Do we have a second? Ms. Frank, your light is on, so I don't know if that's a second. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Frank.
I would like to request a closed session for advice on a legal matter.
Okay, we have Mr. Silkworth.
Madam President, I move that the board go into closed session to obtain advice on a legal matter.
We have a second? Okay, do I have consensus? Okay, we will close. Thank you. Okay, thank you. And again, we are back. So we were on item 6.02, filling of vacancies on Executive Committee of Countywide Citizen Advisory Committee. Ms. Schalheim.
Yeah, I'm going to amend my previous motion to move that we appoint the amended slate of CAC applicants to the CAC.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Seeing no lights, Ms. Howell.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schalheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Mr. McGrath? Oh, Mr. Soakworth?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Mr. McGrath?
Yeah.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, thank you. Item 6.03, Chesapeake Science Point Public Elementary School Charter Contract.
Thank you so much, Madam President. I recommend board approval of the charter school agreement with the governing board of Chesapeake Science Point Public Charter Elementary School.
I move to accept the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, I see no lights. I do have one question I wanted
And we
to
do have a
pose.
short presentation
Okay,
as
please,
well.
please give the
It's
presentation.
going to be short.
Yeah.
I promise you.
I have to introduce you, Mr. Crane.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have a short presentation, and I will turn it over to Mr. Crane to walk the board through the specifics of this item. Thank you.
Thank
you. Good afternoon, President Tobin, Vice President Silkworth, members of the board, and Mrs. Jackson. For the record, my name is Pat Crane, Director of Alternative Education. So the charter approval process takes place in two steps. Step one was you approved the charter application. That already happened. That took place on June 1st, 2022. Step two is to approve the charter contract, and that's why I come before you today. So shortly after you all approved the charter application back on June 1st, parties began working to put the charter contract together. If approved today, it would serve as the legally binding agreement that will guide each party with respect to their roles and responsibility over the next 5 years. It should be noted that this was a highly collaborative process involving senior and executive staff from AACPS, as well as representatives from the Chesapeake Lighthouse Foundation and the board of the Chesapeake Science Point Elementary School. Also noted is Mr. Burns, board counsel, also reviewed and provided feedback on the charter agreement. So having said that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Okay, I see no other lights. Just to clarify one more time, I've obviously been through the contract, but in light of some testimony that we received, could you just remind us one more time, particularly in the area of special education, sort of how our oversight or partnership works and what follow-up occurs?
Right. So I think it's important to understand is even though this is a public charter school, it's still an Anne Arundel County public school. They're Anne Arundel County public school teachers, Anne Arundel County public school students. And as such, they have to follow all of the pertinent laws, regulations, policies that govern all special ed services in all public schools. There are no exceptions because this is a public charter school. I thought that the public testimony today was pertinent to today because we are here to talk about accountability on behalf of the school. If I direct you to page 7 of the charter contract, that is very specific language regarding how special ed services have to be delivered within a public charter school in Maryland, particularly in Anne Arundel County. It talks about IEP development, it talks about personnel, it talks about compensatory services. And it also says if the charter school fails to implement those services, the charter can be revoked. So we do have very strong language that provides some guardrails for how special ed services have to be provided within a public charter school. We provide site visits once a year. As you all know, we audit special ed records. We go into classrooms to see how special ed services are being implemented. And we have a very firm presence within schools with our special ed personnel at the central office level to make sure that services are being implemented appropriately.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Seeing no other lights. Go forward.
Ms. Corkadell? Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. Dent,
Aye.
Mr. McGrath,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth,
Aye.
Ms. Frank,
Aye.
Ms. Ellis,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
All right,
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Crane.
Okay, item 6.04, South River Complex, fee simple conveyance for a fire station. Ms. Jackson.
Thank you. Madam President, I recommend approval of the fee simple conveyance for a fire station at the South River Complex.
Okay, thank you. Do we have, I see lights. Do we want to go
Presentation
ahead and
first.
have a presentation or?
Thank you, Madam President. We do have a short presentation, and I will now turn it over to Mr. Shaknovich to walk the board through the specifics of this item.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. For the record, Alex Sheckman, Chief Operating Officer. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present item 6.04. It is an action item regarding a request for a fee simple conveyance for a fire station utilizing some of the property that the Board of Education holds in its portfolio at the South River Complex. So there is an existing fire station. It's buried pretty far back into the old neighborhood of Woodland Beach that we now know as part of Edgewater. That fire station has served its purpose very well for a long period of time, but a couple things have happened. One, the town has grown tremendously since the fire station was first established. Secondly, the fire station is up there in years and is no longer capable of fully supporting the functions that they need. They quite honestly just outgrown the station. And then again, the station itself is up there in years and is in need of replacement. So the county has been working with the fire department, the volunteer fire department. It is a station that's jointly staffed by both county career and volunteers. They've been working collaboratively to identify the correct location or a better location for it, recognizing that they could not use the existing piece of property. Initially, they looked at a piece of property that was on the southwest corner of, the southeast corner, southwest corner of the intersection Route 214 and Route 2. But for a number of technical reasons, that did not work out. So they had to look at an alternate location. The alternative location, the best location, wound up being on about 3.049 acres of property that we own that fronts Stepney's Lane in Edgewater. That relocation will offer a couple benefits. One, obviously, it will be a new modernized station, so it will not just be sized and equipped correctly to serve the current requirements of the now expanded community. But secondly, the location of the fire station actually will be better situated in terms of meeting the requirements of the insurance service organization, which is the fire insurance rating organization. So every citizen within that town and the surrounding area pays part of their fire and homeowner insurance predicated on the location and response time from the station. So not only will this, again, better serve the station itself, but the fire insurance portion of every homeowner and business owners, part of their bills will go down as a result of this. So we've been working again, as I said, concurrently, not just with the county fire department. We have a formal request from the county Department of Central Services, and we've been working collaboratively with the county Department of Public Works because there is an adjoining water tower and a county public sector well there. So this has been coordinated with the county. The process would be essentially that the board is giving us the authority to begin the conveyance process. It's a little bit more complicated than that. The next steps would be some more formal drawings, surveys, et cetera, would be created. This would have to be approved not just by this board, but the county council will have to vote on this, and the state's interagency commission on school construction will have to vote on this, and then ultimately the state's clearinghouse will have to vote on it too, which is the State Department of General Services, the State Department of Planning, and the Maryland State Department of Education. So there is a ways to go. At the conclusion of that, a formal deed will be crafted, and that deed will be brought back to the president and board's attorney at that time to be executed and properly recorded. I want to be clear that the conveyance of the land in accordance with state law must be and will be directly from this Board of Education to the county government. That is the only permissible land transfer mechanism, and it is in accordance with that provision of state law that we will discharge this if and should it be favorably recommended by this board. And with that, Madam President, we'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Corkadell.
Thank you very much. I'm going to include a moment of personal privilege to thank a few folks in our community that we work with and our partners in the county and delegation, because this is, in the last 6 years, we've made the most significant progress, but this has been something that has been needed since I moved here 26 years ago. And so really quickly, county executives, Owen, Leopold, Shu, and our current county executive, Mr. Pittman. I want to thank them. Chris Phipps, our director of public works, Ms. Romans, who handles the land use, councilmen's, now Senator Riley, Walker, and Hare all have participated in it. And I know that Chief Cox at the Woodland Beach Firehouse has been incredibly instrumental in advocating for this. The fact is that our response times are not up to the standards that they need to be. And long time ago, in 1946, is when this firehouse became active. And back then, we had other substations for each of the peninsulas, and how we responded to emergencies have changed, of course. But the tiny little piece of property sitting in London town has not. And through Herculean efforts to raise their portions of the money to do this all themselves, several sites have been identified. Ultimately, this one is going to be the best solution. Believe me, I have been on that site. All the site options, there were 6 total, I think, landed into the final for the county's most current revision and review of this. And thanks to former Treasurer Nancy Kopp, who was able to identify where the state funding can come from, we are now about ready to see this come to fruition. We have a couple members of the delegation here in District 7 that were not able to attend. I know a couple are out in Ocean City receiving Legislators of the Year from the American Legion for their service to our veterans over the years. So apologies from them, as well as the councilwoman. And President Tobin, with your permission, thank you for granting Delegate Howard, who has had his sleeves rolled up over the last 6 years in conjunction with this, finding us the extra money, finding us the site, working through the snags, asked me to share the following statement. After working on this issue for over 6 years, I'm glad that it's finally coming to fruition. This location will drastically reduce response times to the Mayo Peninsula, our schools, and all surrounding areas. And so our state delegation has played a critical role too. And that list is a lot longer. So I will just say thank you to the whole delegation of Anne Arundel, and particularly those serving District 7, because this was a Herculean effort. And most important, this makes our community safer. Flat out. Our responses to the schools, to the other events that occur from time to time in ways of emergencies will go a long way. And I will just thank my colleagues in advance on behalf of the residents for being mindful in keeping with the spirit and intent of our longstanding relationship with the county to share our assets and resources for mutual benefit. And this definitely is a mutual benefit, not just to the community, but to our schools at large. This fire station, I believe, services everywhere from Southern High School all the way up through Davisonville Elementary, Mayo, and the whole Central South River Complex, Edgewater Elementary, et cetera, et cetera. So they do a lot of good for us too, specifically. So thank you all very much for this. It is such a long time in coming. And I got to say, I was very excited to see this on the agenda, having rolled up my sleeves and participated in my little part over the years doing this. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Corkadell. I see no other lights. Ms. Howell?
We
Did
didn't
we
have a
a
formal
motion?
motion.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt the South River Complex conveyance.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Mr. McGrath?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item 6.05, personnel, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, Madam President. I recommend the board approve the action as stipulated on the attached sheets.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Seeing no lights, Ms. Howell?
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Mr. McGrath?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Frank?
Aye.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. We move to review items. Item 7.01, construction status report. Ms. Jackson.
Madam President, this is a review item. Our team would be happy to answer any questions that you or the board may have.
Thank you.
And as they're coming up, I'll ask them to introduce themselves. Thank you so much.
Certainly. Lisa Seaman Crawford, Director of Facilities.
Kyle Ruff, Supervisor of Planning, Design, and Construction.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I see no lights. Are there any questions? No? Well, I guess you got a few more steps in. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item 7.02, award of contracts.
Madam President, again, this is a review item, and our team would be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. I see no lights. Okay, thank you.
Move to adjourn.
I believe there's a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Do I hear any discussion? Yeah.
Really?
No, it's a motion to adjourn.
And she's back.
That we do move on. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, let's figure
so
that
I
out.
believe we are adjourned.